Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and it's time for our weekly track roundup. All right. First, we need to talk about the good people over at SeatGeek who have sponsored this video. SeatGeek is an app that aggregates tickets to live events from all over the web, making ticket buying simple. They have a 1 to 100 score on each ticket that you're purchasing to let you know if you're getting a good deal or a bad deal. Green is good, red is bad. And their in-app view from Seat lets you know exactly where you're going to be sitting. Now, you can enter code DROP when you make your first purchase on the app to get $20 off on your ticket order. And that is it, guys. Link and more information down there in the description box. Shout out to our sponsor, SeatGeek. All right. Weekly track roundup. We also have our Amazon Associates link and our Turntable Lab link, down there in the description box. Hit those up too if you want. And shout out to MAXO KREAM, who has a new project out streaming on the internet. The Houston rapper is back with a new sizable album tape, again, project. And there's also a new Iron Reagan and Gate Creeper split out right now for those of you who are more into the loud rock side of things. All right, let's get into the worst tracks of the week. Worst. All right, we're gonna kick it off first with a little bit of very bland dream pop, I guess. Rhye, they have a new track out, new record coming on the way. Track is titled "Song for You." It's probably one of the project's most non-songs I've ever heard. Like, it's so faint and it's so skeletal that it just doesn't seem like there's much at all going on of interest, in my opinion. Like, the vocals are barely there. The instrumental is so scant. It seems like at this point Rhye is just trying their hardest to make as little interesting sounds as possible, and I'm not sure I quite get the appeal. But honestly, I've never really been that deep into the group to begin with. I mean, some of the earliest singles were pretty sweet and very refined, like sophisti-pop type stuff. But this is just like, honestly, off the dream pop deep end for me. Moving on from there, new track from Matt and Kim Forever. New record on the way, and this is the title track, or this is the first big single rather. And right now, Matt and Kim to me sound like they're having a really awkward time transitioning into the sound of the new age, just as sort of Tegan and Sarah have, with a lot of their new records too. Not really enjoying the more electronic and the more obnoxious sound that they're going for here. I don't know what it is with so many pop and rock bands from kind of like the MySpace era, just like going full, like, I don't know, electropop or whatever. Like, it's especially when they're not particularly good at it. I get that it's kind of trendy. I get that everybody wants to blow up and then sort of be the next Coldplay. And right now in rock music, there's not much of an underground to kind of thrive off of. But I feel like that's going to continue to be the case as long as everybody kind of keeps abandoning the sound and abandoning the genre and making records like this. Moving on from there, did not care for the new Justin Timberlake single at all. Man of the Woods being the new album he has out, or coming on the way rather. And this song titled Filthy is, I don't know, it's kind of funky, it's kind of electronic. The music video is super pretentious, like he's pretending to be Steve Jobs or whatever. And just do not care for the instrumental at all. The instrumental is like almost trash. Like I hate just how many modern pop songs just kind of incorporate these really tacky, like stale and really dated EDM sounds, like I feel like a lot of these trends have totally come and gone and people are still trying to feed off of them like vultures. And I'm just not sort of seeing the appeal. And to me, vocally, this is not even really one of Justin's most impressive tracks. So I don't know. I feel like the instrumental kind of dominates the song a little bit, and the instrumental isn't even that interesting to begin with. Moving on from there, Jack White, in my opinion, has just literally put out his worst song ever, Connected by Love. And while the B-side to this track, Respect Commander, is leagues better, both tracks feature a very jittery, groovy, clearly electronic vibe and feel. I think this is going to be Jack White's electronic record too. Everybody is really like jumping on board for the for I guess the synthetic age. And I wonder if this is eventually going to kind of rubber band back, and we're going to see people go back to sort of more organic and more acoustic aesthetics, just because we're going to kind of get an overload of stuff like this. Quite literally on this track, you kind of have these like revving synthesizers that almost sound like vaguely dubstep-ish a little bit, lyrically and melodically. Like it's one of Jack's worst and laziest songs. I just don't get the point of this track. Already it's January 2018, and I feel like I've heard one of the worst songs of the year. Like, this track is so awkward. It's badly structured. The groove is like almost not there. What little groove there is just like really, really, like, I don't know, clunky. And it sounds like the groove on this thing is Frankenstein. It's so awkward and just like it's kind of lumbering around in like a I guess like a really horrid way. I do not care for this track at all. Again, I think it's one of his worst pieces of solo material ever. Again, Respect Commander, better, smoother track, more interesting grooves, more interesting production. But it does not make up for Connected by Love. It really, truly does not. Moving on from there, let's get into the tracks that I thought were kind of meh this week. Not amazing, but certainly worth shouting out. Thought they were decent. A new Turnstile track I thought was pretty cool. Definitely not the crazy hardcore kind of almost alternative metal, slightly like rap metal to a degree, hardcore metalcore vibe that the band has kind of been riding on. This track is so much more melodic and easygoing. Didn't really have a strong flavor in my opinion. Felt like one of their blander tracks, not quite as exciting, but new record coming out soon, and I'm willing to kind of just see this through to a new album to really hear the bigger picture of this record and hear if it really kind of comes together into something interesting. Again, if I haven't said, the track is titled Moon. Tribulation has a new track out, new album on the way. As you guys know, I've been teasing toward and talking about new songs from it. However, this, while it's not terrible, it's maybe my least favorite song teasing toward this record I've heard so far. The vocal presence on this track isn't really there. The vocals seem super obscure to the point where they almost sound like background vocals. Like this thing really could have used a louder lead vocal. And beyond that, the instrumental sort of seems to be in their usual, I guess, kind of anthemic, melodic, gothic metal style. Like, didn't really stand out to me in any way, shape, or form in comparison with a lot of their usual stuff that I've enjoyed from them in the past. MGMT has a new kind of washed out, very spacey psych pop single. Not quite as interesting as the singles they've released so far. It's a slow burner. It's a ballad. Could work a little bit better in the context of the record. Marshmello has a new collaborative track out with Lil Peep. Truth be told, I'm still not like super crazy about Lil Peep's sound. However, this track is probably one of the, I guess, better produced that I've ever heard him on, given that it is Marshmello. You do kind of have like this high grade, very glossy, very glitzy EDM style production. So, if you want to hear Lil Peep over just like very clean, very glossy, very hard hitting, and very refined production, you're probably going to want to hear this track. I think it's one of his clearer and better recorded vocal performances as well. So even though I am not crazy about it, even I can see that this is like probably one of the best Lil Peep tracks that you're ever going to hear, and that's good that things are sort of on a high note, especially since it's a posthumous track. So moving on from there, I do enjoy the new Uchis track. I need to learn to pronounce that because I'm an idiot. And I told myself I was going to do that and I forgot. But she has a new very smooth, kind of neo-soul flavored track out featuring Tyler, the Creator, and Bootsy Collins that I like quite a bit. The production vibe is very much like similar to that of Flower Boy. I think you guys will dig the track a lot. Her voice in the past has always come off to me as just being like a little bit sleepy, kind of like I'm listening to a very sleepy, uninteresting version of Little Dragon or something. But I feel like vocally she has stepped it up herself a little bit this time around. I feel like she's really kind of coming into her own as a vocalist a bit more. And I think Tyler does bring a lot to the track. Bootsy brings some fun additions to the cut too. David Byrne has a new song out titled Everybody's Coming to My House. And there's some things that I really admire about this track. For one, how wild and off the frigging wall the vocal is. Like, David really lets loose vocally on this track. Like, he really kind of brings it back to the yelpy, weird, totally strange, and to a degree even freakier vocal twitches that he would do on so many Talking Heads records. The instrumental, I think, is a little too calculated and a little too rigid to reflect that wild energy, which does kind of make the cut a little underwhelming to me, but still a good track and a song that kind of makes me look forward to this new record. And shout out to Busdriver, who dropped like a Lucy on a SoundCloud titled Gush, which is just as jittery and intense and as intricate as one would want a Busdriver to be. A Busdriver track to be. Hopefully he drops a new record this year. That would be amazing. Like a great quality, perfect hair follow-up would be fantastic. And here are the best tracks, the tracks that I loved the most this week. Got to give a shout out to the new Tune Yards cut. New Tune Yards cut, Heart Attack. Really loving the alternative dance, experimental kind of indie dance style that they've been going for. Seemed like they've been kind of just pulling out all of the kind of the African music influences and like all the international music influences that have been in their sound, and have been going for something a little bit more straightforward. And this track, like some of the instrumentation on this thing is super sour, super dissonant, a little dark in a way. This in a way is like almost some of their most tortured and harrowing material in a way, especially with this music video. Like, it's a really odd, really uncomfortable, really unsettling kind of music video. The intensity of all of their weird movements and just the staring right into the camera. It's just like really, really freaky and really odd. I like it. Probably my favorite single so far from the bunch, but that may be subject to change once I hear the entire record. Portal has a new record on the way via Profound Lore. A few new tracks out from it now. One that stood out to me is Phreqs. If you didn't know, these guys are an Australian death metal band. One of the weirdest and most experimental and I guess cacophonous out there right now. Their music like literally sounds like falling down for an eternity into hell itself. And new material does not miss out on sort of delivering that same vibe as well. Really enjoying this new track. Also enjoying this new track over here titled King's Dead, featuring Kendrick Lamar, Future, James Blake. This is J-Rock's new single. J-Rock of, obviously, freaking Top Dog Entertainment. This single is also going to be featured on the new Black Panther movie soundtrack, but it's also serving as J-Rock's first single for his forthcoming record. Really enjoying Kendrick's contribution to the track, loving the production and the energy of the song. Like, seems way more amped and way more in your face than a lot of the material that ended up on J-Rock's last record, although he did have some teaser material in that album cycle that didn't even make it onto the album itself. So I'm hoping that, I actually know, because I've already read that this is going to be sort of the promotion for the new album. So I imagine it's going to be on the new record, direct connection with the new record, not just some loosey track to get people excited. So I'm hoping that we hear that junkyard side of J-Rock through and through, but of course balanced out with some mellower moments too on this new record. That I know has been there, but I feel like he hasn't really kind of like dug it out fully to just lay it all out there onto a new, big, massive commercial project that everybody is going to be looking for and looking at because it's top dog. Moving on from there, enjoying this new Ed Schrader's Music Beat track, which, believe it or not, is produced by Dan Deacon, of all people. Dunce is the title of the song, and Ed Schrader's Music Beat, if you didn't know, are a music duo whose tracks I've always been kind of lukewarm on in the past. I've always enjoyed how noisy and just how like raw the energy of their music is. However, like as a duo, they really, really, really have made it a point to make their music sound very stripped back, very skeletal, very minimal, so bare bones. So the rawness of the energy of the songwriting is really kind of the selling point to the track. I've always thought that their tracks could use more layers, and this track, this song over here, really brings that. Like it sounds kind of like a weird goth rock, post-punk hybrid. It's super heavy, it's super dense. You can tell that Dan Deacon really kind of thickens the duo's sound up, and really loving the vocal performance on this track too. Really kind of brings me back to some of the more animalistic vocal performers in the punk underground and in the post-punk movement. So really enjoying that quite a bit. A couple more tracks over here that I wanted to shout out. Loving this new Carnage song. If you didn't know who Carnage is, a DJ producer, he worked recently on that EP with Young Thug that made it on my EPs of the year list. He has a new track out featuring MadeInTYO and Mac Miller, and it's a total banger. It's amazing. Learn how to watch. It's fantastic. Beat's fantastic. Energy's fantastic. It's actually one of Mac Miller's best verses I've ever heard him lay down. One of his best features. Like this has to be like a top 3 Mac Miller feature. Honestly, like out of all of his features, it has to be a top 3 feature. It's that good. His energy is that high, and I feel like lyrically it's totally on point too. So really enjoying what came together here on this collaborative track. Hoping Carnage continues to collaborate with more people. Carnage continues to put together more tracks like this. If there's honestly a producer album that I would be excited to hear right now, and there's a lot of producer albums that come out that honestly, it's so much of a chore for me sometimes because there's not a whole lot of flow to them. Like the people who jump on track are not delivering their best stuff, and it all just kind of like runs like a mess in a compilation at the end of the day. It just feels like a bunch of random beats, a bunch of random features, and nothing really kind of threading it all together as far as like consistency or quality. But honestly, like from what I've heard so far with Young Thug, what I've heard with this track and other tracks that he's produced and worked with other artists on, like if there's a producer album I would be excited to hear right now, it's Carnage's. It really is. A few more. Got to give a shout out to Will Toledo of Car Seat Headrest, who has a new revised version of right here, his most legendary Bandcamp album. He has sort of a revised version of the track Nervous Young Inhumans. And keep in mind, I didn't really enjoy Will's Car Seat Headrest's previous Bandcamp material all that much, if at all. I found it really underwhelming, really kind of messy. I didn't quite see the magic there that a lot of people did. So maybe for some people, this new revised and new re-recorded stuff sucks. That may in fact be the case. To me, though, I'm really loving the energy. I'm really loving the new layers of instrumentation. Really liking how he's reinventing these tracks from top to bottom. And I know this new version is going to be put out on Matador Records this year. So I'm just excited to hear that. Like, I think it sounds really good. It sounds good to my ears. Hopefully it's not disappointing fans, because this revised version of the record may turn me into a real believer of the older Car Seat Headrest stuff. And finally, the last track I wanted to shout out is this new song from Andrew WK, who has a new record coming out this year. Andrew looking buff as hell on that front cover. And the song is titled Music is Worth Living For. And it just kind of is in Andrew's usual get wet, like thick, almost like too densely produced, glitzy, hard rock, party rock sound. There's kind of like a new epicness, a new anthemicness to it, which I think is just kind of specific to this song, given the title, given the topic, given the subject. You really kind of feel like Andrew's really kind of singing from his heart on this subject matter, and is kind of putting some extra passion to this, because in a lot of ways this is literally like his return to music, which he's been teasing for years, which we've been kind of crossing our fingers for years. I don't know why in this musical landscape of all musical landscapes, he would choose right now, right here, to return. But it'll be interesting to see him come back and see what that does and what the result is. I'm loving the track. You know, I think it kind of throws it back to a lot of his big breakout records, best qualities. And, you know, hopefully he follows through. And that's all I can say. So those are my best and worst tracks of the week. This has been your weekly track roundup. Again, shout out to the good people over at SeatGeek. Link down below to check them out and support them for supporting the segment. And all of the songs that I've talked about in this segment are linked down below, obviously. So there you go, guys. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Anthony Fantano, best worst tracks, weekly track roundup, forever.